Instead of getting stronger mentally, I took some steps back in that aspect. This is what Carlos Alcaraz said after losing in the second round of the 2024 US Open to Botic Van de Zandschulp. How is it possible that someone that wins Roland Garros and Wimbledon back-to-back and gets a silver medal at the Olympics can say that, can have problems at the mental level? Shouldn't his confidence be sky high? Well, tennis is a very complex sport. It's an individual sport. And I'm sure Carlos and his team are scratching their heads right now looking for solutions, because since playing the Olympics, Carlos has not played well. In fact, he played two of the worst matches that I've ever seen him play, losing to Monfils in Cincinnati. Carlos himself said that was the worst match that he's ever played. And yesterday's match, especially in that first set, was some of the worst tennis that I've seen Carlos play. But before I share my opinion on why Carlos is struggling, I'm going to talk about Botic, and I'm going to draw some comparisons between the two. See, Botic jumped on the scene in 2021 by reaching the quarterfinals of the US Open from the qualies where he lost to Medvedev. This result took him into the top 100. He went as high as 35 in the world. And Botic made his first ATP final in Munich on clay last year. Munich is a clay court tournament that takes place a week after Monte Carlo. And in this tournament, he faced Holger Rune. And this is not the current version of Holger Rune. This was a Holger Rune that was on fire, who had just made the Monte Carlo final a week prior by beating Medvedev and Sinner back-to-back and losing to Rublev 7-5 in the third. And he started strong in this final, winning the first set comfortably, but then Botic turned it on, and I was so impressed with this player. Not only is he a power player, can hit the ball extremely hard, he serves well, can come to the net, and most impressively, he has exceptional movement for a guy with a bigger build. So Botic won that second set 6-1 and continued to play well and was up 5-2 in the third, 2 breaks. And Rune, at that time in the match, was in tank mode. There was something hurting, and he mentally checked out of the match. And when Botic was serving at 15 love, 5-2 up in the third, Rune played a tank mode point. Botic had come to the net, and Rune could have easily hit a forehand passing shot, but he decided to turn around and do one of those tweener shots. So not off a lob, a completely unnecessary show shot, and somehow Rune ends up winning this point and then starts to try. He started to play a lot more seriously after that point. But nevertheless, Botic wins the next 2 points, is up 40-15, has 2 match points on his own serve, up 5-2 in the third. He loses that first match point, and something weird happened where Botic looked up into the stands to Paul Harhus and made a negative gesture, and I thought this was weird because he was in complete control of the match. In fact, he only needed 1 more point to win the match, but he didn't. He lost the second match point, lost the serve, Rune holds, Botic loses his serve again at 5-4, serving for the match again. Then at 5-all, Botic breaks Rune's serve and is serving for the match a third time and is again up 40-15 with 2 match points. Cannot convert at this moment in time. Rune is playing exceptional tennis and ends up winning this match 7-6 in the third. Now look, Munich is only a 250 level tournament, but it's a very prestigious tournament held at the Ifitos Club in Munich, where the winner gets a BMW. So this meant a lot to Botic, and this affected him very negatively, and this is what's so tough about tennis. There he was, dominating a top 10 player in the world in a final of an ATP tournament. But after that tournament, Botic did not win a single match on clay, and in fact did not win a single match on the ATP Tour until Wimbledon, where he won the first round and lost in the second. And the poor performances continued all the way to yesterday's match against Carlos, where Botic was unable to win back-to-back matches at the ATP level in 2024. Yes, he did come through some qualifying draws. He did win matches at the Challenger level, but at the ATP level, he did not win back-to-back matches all year. So it is clear that losing meaningful matches independent of the level of the tournament, because tournaments and matches are going to have a different meaning to each individual player. But this is something that's very difficult to get out of a player's head when you had the victory so close to you, 1 point away, and you let it slip. So what happened to Botic at the US Open? Well, he said it after the match. He felt confident. Why? Because he beat Denis Shapovalov in the first round, which is not an easy win by any means. And he stepped on the court against Carlos Alcaraz, possibly with nothing to lose. There was no pressure on him. and he played the greatest match that he's ever played. See, a lot of people picked Carlos to win the US Open. I didn't. I picked Sinner. I did pick Carlos to go to the semifinals. I expected Carlos to have a little bit of a slump post the Olympics, but I did not expect the slump to be this extreme. Carlos was asked whether the loss against Djokovic in the Olympic final affected him negatively, and Carlos said no. So it could be the fact that this is just a normal slump that every great player goes through. We don't have to single out Carlos for this loss. We can compare this loss to Rafa losing to Brown in Wimbledon, Federer losing to Stakhovsky in Wimbledon, or Djokovic losing to Istomin at the Australian Open. So losses like this can happen. But to me, the fact that he had 2 shock losses back to back, and also the fact that he didn't play well against 2 in that first round, there could be some lingering effect of letting that Olympic final slip. Because if you remember, Carlos had chances in that match. That match featured no breaks of serves, and Carlos had a ton of break chances in that first set. He was emotionally affected by that match. After all, he cried in an interview with Alex Corretja after the match. So this loss hurt a lot. So I think we're looking at 2 things. A lingering effect of losing that final to Djokovic, and also an expected slump after winning French Open and Wimbledon back-to-back. See, the thing with Carlos is the following. He is a showman at heart. He loves to play like this. In my opinion, Carlos could benefit tremendously from playing all his matches on court 18. Okay, because I think he could be unbeatable if he doesn't play in front of a big crowd. Because once Carlos is in front of a big crowd, he likes to entertain. So when everything is going his way, and no problem, he can be the showman and win matches. However, when he's not playing well, we have seen examples of Carlos playing low percentage tennis, and that was certainly the case yesterday. Carlos was unable to extend the rally, something that he did really well in Indian Wells, where he turned his season around and also turned around the half of the 2023 season that was poor post-Cincinnati. In Indian Wells, he was able to recover his form by putting more height on the ball, putting more spin on his backhand and his forehand, extending the rally, changing up his shots. But yesterday in the first set, he was going low and hard, and he missed a tremendous amount of balls into the net. He was also shanking balls. This is another thing that we see from Carlos, where when his game is off, he has a tendency to shank some forehands. So I've said this before, Carlos can benefit tremendously from playing less exciting tennis and more boring tennis. And he should learn from Novak Djokovic, who plays some of the most boring night session matches ever. These are not exciting matches because Novak is all business. He wins in straight sets. There's nothing exciting going on other than Novak's regular game. And this is not a diss on Novak. This is exactly how you want to play the matches. The crowd pleasing, when you're not on the top of your game, can work against you, and you can find yourself losing sets to players where you shouldn't. So to be fair, in yesterday's match, yes, Carlos played a horrible first set, but then in the second set, he did play better. But unfortunately, Botic was playing out of his mind. And Carlos said in the post-match interview that he was looking for Botic to give him some free points, and he just didn't. Botic played an exceptional match. Carlos put himself in a hole that he wasn't able to get out of. Because even when he turned up his game in sets 2 and 3, he was still committing a lot of unforced errors on crucial points. And again, the type of unforced errors that he was making were low percentage shots, hitting the ball very low and hard, where the probability of missing is extremely high. So to me, the solution for Carlos is simple. He needs to play more like Djokovic as far as the showmanship is concerned, and be all business and not care so much about entertaining the crowd. And as far as his tennis, he needs to play more like Rafa and extend the rallies, make the matches more physical. He's going to get his looks to be aggressive and dominate the other players. But especially in matches where his confidence is low and when he's not playing well, extending the rally makes a lot of sense, not only for Carlos, but for every tennis player. When you're making high percentage shots, your confidence grows, and then when you do pull the trigger, the likelihood of your shots going in is going to be much higher.